Welcome to Sutton Conservation, October 17th. First thing on the agenda is Paul Capuano, JP Capuano, who is going to rehab the nature trail in back of the school. But I'll give you a little bit of background first. Some of you may or may not know that I taught biology for 35 years. And in the early 70s, when they bought the diversion farm for the schools, I started taking my classes out. And Bill was just saying he remembers going out and it was fun, so I'm glad of that. Anyway, I applied to Mr. Spence, who is superintendent, with my idea to lay out the nature trail, and we accomplished that. Later on, it got grown in, and another group rehabbed it and fixed the bridge again, and it's all grown in again. So Paul is endeavoring to rehab the nature trail. So if you'd like to come up and explain things to us.
Yeah. So my name's JP, so that's about me. I've been a Boy Scout for 9 years, and I'm working on getting my Eagle project completed. And to do that, I've talked to my troop about rehabilitating the nature trail. In this packet, you'll just see pictures.
You can give one to Brandon, if you have an extra one.
Thank you. Yeah. So, as Roy said, the nature trail has been part of the Sutton curriculum for 40 years now, and it's currently been impassable and very hazardous to walk on, especially since the teachers like to do it with little kids. The bridges in there have been slippery, there have been a lot of thorns, and there's also fallen trees and a lot of just overgrown vegetation that sort of make the nature trail impassable and quite hazardous to incorporate into the teacher's curriculum. So my goal is to make the nature trail passable and also add signage to the nature trail to make sure that it's the safest place it can possibly be. So one of the main problems that we've occurred was beating back the vegetation. We mainly use hand tools for that. We use scythes to take care of some of the ferns that sort of made sort of where the trails go unclear, and we also took care of vegetation that was sort of spiking out of the trails that could potentially hit someone in the face. We used just hand clippers for that, and we used bow saws to cut some of the bigger limbs off of the sides to make sure that the trail was as profound as it possibly could be. Incorporating the signage, we're not doing anything new. I'm thinking of attaching maps to the pre-existing trail markers that are found on the trail. They're periodically placed according to different environments and ecosystems found within the nature trail. Overall, I'm not doing anything that would really impact the ecosystem that is the nature trail. It's just maintaining the trail to make sure that it's the safest place possible for the Sutton Middle School and High School to use. I talked about partnering with the Lions Club to redo the bridges, because that's another one of the most hazardous parts found within the nature trail, because they're slippery, they're broken boards, they're very mossy, and there's just a lot of dangers found within them, especially because they're on the water. So the Lions Club have built these bridges that we plan on installing, and they are just plywood. They look identical to the ones that were there, except they're just newer.
They're really walkways instead of bridges. There was one bridge, but the others are really walkways over marshy areas and a little stream. Would you like him to show the picture? When you like him to show the pictures, you can.
Yeah, so.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, let me bring it up. It's Boy Scout Project. All right, I don't know what order they're in, but.
So this was a picture of the bridge before we cleaned it out, and there was a tree falling down on top of it. There were a few broken planks, and it was just really hazardous to cross, because when it rained, this area up here would get really muddy, so it would be hard to even get onto the bridge. And so you'd have to walk over puddles, and you couldn't really tell where you were walking. And you can't really see it, but there's a whole section behind the bridge that is just basically the bridge but without rails on it, so it's really open, and that was overgrown with vegetation all on the sides, so it became really narrow and hard to walk on. But other than that, we just cleared up the vegetation, removed some of the trees, and repaired some of the planks, and then the bridge was in a lot better shape than we found it.
That was actually the second bridge when they rehabbed it the second time, but there's huge, I guess you call them beams,
Yeah.
that were from the original bridge. So those are the original ones, and then they built the new bridge on top.
This is just a picture I took it because it showed like the struggle that people would have to go through in order to walk on the nature trail, because there's a lot of fallen cedars because they've been succeeded out by other plants and they've all been dying, especially due to the storms that we've been having. A lot of the trees didn't survive the winter.
Actually, those were pushed down
Yeah,
probably
they're
15 years ago in a hurricane we had.
And so they've just made the nature trail really hard to pass because, as you can see, people are just gonna have to bend down and literally crawl onto the trail just to get from one part to another. And this was just an example of how thin the trail was. As you can see, like, it's only a foot wide at that point, and if you have a bunch of kids walking on it, it's really hard for the teacher to keep track of all the kids that are on it. So the wider the trail, the easier it is for the teacher to keep track of all those kids, making it a safer environment. And this one's, yeah, sideways, but this, I remember we had to walk up the hill because there were these huge annual plants that were in the way, and they must have been like 5 or 6 feet tall. We couldn't even walk through it, but we cleared it with scythes and pliers and trimmers in order to make that sort of passable. I think there's a picture of that within the packet, but we just ended up clearing that up, and it was a nice and wide trail. One of the environmental science teachers, Miss O'Neill, she sent me an email the other day saying that she used that part of the trail and she liked how wide it was and allowed the nature trail to be more easily used. Yeah, and that's just a more up close picture of what the shrubs were like in that particular part of the trail, how overgrown it was. And then this is the part that was right before the bridge. It's not particularly wet in this photograph, but it was very muddy. I know we had a few rainstorms, and I unfortunately worked on the trail after the rainstorm, so this was all flooded, and we had to like step on rocks in order to keep our feet dry. And yeah, this just again shows how narrow the trails were and how filled they are with debris and how unclear they are as to where you're going. This is the beginning of the trail. How you can see how narrow it was, we had to push back thorns and all these plants just to get through the trail. This was the entrance, believe it or not, and so it was really unpresentable. And that was the sign that was right next to the entrance, and you couldn't even see the whole sign due to how overgrown everything was.
Virginia creeper. Non-invasive.
These were some of the logs that were on the trail because someone attempted to cut up all the trees, and we moved them to the sides because we didn't want to take them out, or else that would have harmed the ecosystem because we would have been taking out nutrients. So we liked to put them towards the sides of the trails in sort of brush piles so that we can make sure that the nutrients go back into the ecosystem. Yeah, and there's just more pictures of the trees that we took care of.
Then we're back to, looks like we're back to the beginning.
This one.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
wait a minute. This looks, is that new?
No.
Okay.
So you have a lot of hours into it already, I understand.
Yes, we have 80 hours so far, but they're counting. We still have a few more days to sort of clean everything up.
And can you describe the walkways that the Lions Club built? I believe they spent a whole day or more.
So they're just there's 12 8-foot sections of bridge that spans over the amount of stream that there is so that you can walk on it. They're gonna be laid down on the rocks that were already laid down to make sure that they're flat, but other than that, it's just plywood and nails.
Anybody have any comments here?
I think it's wonderful. I think it's a great thing that you did, and we appreciate it.
Yeah.
Good work.
Hi, I'm at 48 Putnam Hill Road and I'm Xanadu Kaban. So my property is right along the trail. As you're walking along it, you see the horse property. I have one question. I could show you where I am, but I'm at 48. But my one question is, when you get along the trail, there's a certain right-hand turn that has never been marked very well. And if you went straight on the trail, you would tend to go behind the old Cedarbrook Equestrian Center. And the turn on the trail is very frequently missed. My one request is if you had someone to make a sign. I posted something a couple of years ago and it's since fallen down. And I could repost another one, but I just put nature trail with an arrow because no one ever makes there's a lot of people that get lost in the back. There's just one corner. And I could show you where. It's the corner that they marked to go back in.
Yeah, that actually was not part of the original trail that I laid out. Part of the original trail that I laid out did go in back there and around, but when they had cedar workers for cutting the trail, they kind of went over there and they decided they'd get lost over in there and hide and they didn't have to do much work. So then they kind of cut it right down through the middle, and that's the only part that survives today. But the other part went way around through some hemlock and around through more of the wetlands on the right-hand side. So it originally did go over there.
Yeah, so I think they recut it. They cut down the trail behind my house to increase, to remark it so that people come back through the back of my house. So I was just saying that there was one part of the trail that if you could put an arrow, simply something like the over at Shaw, some arrow that keeps people on track. Because otherwise, Mike, you remember that the people would end up in the back of Cedarbrook, lost, honestly, thought they were taking the trail because there's a Y intersection and they didn't know which way to go.
Groups of kids.
Yeah.
I remember. It's
Yeah.
true.
So there's just, if at some point, there's just one corner that
Yeah.
needs an arrow. And if I have permission to put it back up, I would probably put it back up again. I just made a handmade wooden sign that said nature trail, just so that people would continue on.
Alright, I
That's
definitely
my only,
could-
that's
yeah.
my only input is that when we increase the volume of traffic, it's a nice trail, but people do get lost. When you made the plywood, when I hear the word plywood, I'm worried about it delaminating and falling apart. Do you fear, cause I would have suggested a composite or pressure treated, but did they just use regular plywood or pressure treated?
I'm not too sure what it's made out of. I think they're made out of like 2x4s and then planks along the top. I'm not sure if the actual.
Yeah, it may not be plywood.
Yeah.
It didn't sound like it was gonna
Oh,
be
you did-
plywood.
Oh, okay.
I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, cause that section of bridge floats every year when it floods. It all floats and then people usually tuck them back into where they go. But if it was a plywood, I'm worried about all the nails that within a year it would just be disintegrating. But they're probably already made, so.
Maybe you could take more pictures when it's
Yeah.
completed and report back.
I definitely will. Just not done, but
Hey, thank you for coming in and
Yeah.
sharing with us.
thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
Oh, I'd like to point something out too. So, there's portions of the trail that go through the wetlands, but it is an exempt activity under the law. This is a in-kind maintenance and repair to pre-existing or duly permitted structures, appurtenances, or maintained areas, so you are in the clear.
Yeah.
And I'm going to the fall conference on Saturday and taking the 2 workshops on trails, so, anyway.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I'll recuse myself from this next one on the contract.
Okay.
Conflict of interest. Right on time.
Now, who we got?
Oh, you don't have to,
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
107.
I thought I put it on there. So no filing.
Okay, 107 West Millbury Road. Sutton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, October 17th, 2018, at 7:15 PM at the Sutton Town Hall, 4 Oxford Road, Sutton, Mass. Purpose of this hearing is to review a notice of intent submitted to the Conservation Commission by Alicia Garvin, Oxford, Mass. The project consists of demolishing an existing two-bedroom home to reconstruct a four-bedroom home on map 15, parcels 127 on 107 West Millbury Road, Sutton, Mass. This notice is publicized in accordance with the provisions of General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, commonly known as the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Sutton Wetlands Protection Bylaw. We have a few housekeeping things to go over. Have you given us the abutters notices?
Yeah, I have them right there. And then I also have a letter about construction.
I have the fees been paid? The bylaw fee, the consultant fee, the ad fee?
So, yeah, I think I have now.
Do you have a DEP number?
We do.
You know what it is?
0880, 0881.
Do you have any applications with other boards pending?
Board of Health.
Board of Health. And we have your resume?
Yep.
Do we have the avoidance and minimization
Yes.
statement? Okay. All right, that takes care of housekeeping.
Your name again?
Peter Engel with Burnt Engineering.
Oh, okay.
So, 107 West Mulberry Road, an existing two-bedroom, single-family home with a cesspool, existing well, with a wetland right adjacent to the house. The applicant would like to demolish the two-bedroom house, construct a four-bedroom house, which then needs a upgraded septic system. And because it would be new construction, we need to meet all the Title V setbacks. And the two major setbacks on this site would be the well offset as well as the wetland offset. There's one spot in the northern part of the wetland that is outside those buffer zones, however, it is all ledge. So the septic system
The
will
plan
not
there.
work there. The only other portion of the site, where that septic system is viable, would be the southern portion. And the only way to get the effluent from the septic tank to the leach field would be to pump it across the wetland to the D-box and into the leach field. So we have about a 20-foot crossing, with a 2-inch PVC pressure line, temporary disturbance to the septic.
Do you have any other copies of the plan?
Well,
There are two in there?
There was just one that I see.
I have an additional plan, which details the crossing more of the entire site.
I believe it's supposed to be in a week ahead of time, and I don't think you did that.
Yeah, it's not a revision, it's just
That's the one that came in with the original plan.
with it. So this was withdrawn in 2015, is that what I
Correct.
understand? So this is the same plan as,
No, this is different. So that plan had a septic on the north side of a two-bedroom house. We have a well setback and within 50-foot wetland setback. This has the septic on the southern side. So this doesn't show the whole thing, but the septic would be down. This is.
It wasn't withdrawn it wasn't withdrawn during the NOI process. It was given an order of conditions, but nothing
nothing was
happened.
done?
And they were issued a complete certificate, saying that the work just never began.
Okay, that clarifies it.
Right.
Do you have any comments, Brendan?
Yep, I sent a email to the commission. What I'd like to do is give you a quick, if you can make anything out of it. So here's the plan from 2015. So you come down the driveway, and they're gonna here's the house. They're gonna tear down the house and build a new one. It's still gonna be a two-bedroom at that time.
TV a little bit, please.
Yeah,
Thank you.
So, still gonna be a two-bedroom. There's a well right here, so 69.3 feet to the edge of the leach field. But they could do it because it's still considered a repair. So you can get variances, but when you increase bedroom size, it's like a new system and you have to comply 100%, so they weren't gonna give them the variance. So, that kept, in 2015, everything was able to stay within existing lawn areas. Now they wanna increase it to 4-bedroom, which means that there's no room to put it in the existing lawn area. So now we have this plan. So again, the driveway coming down, is that well. And now what they wanna do is, open things up a bit in order to put in a pressurized line through the wetland right here, which is a narrow spot, okay? And then come through the AWRA, clear out an area. It looks like the access to build it's gonna be off of Pine Point. This line right here is the 50-foot mark. So it's gonna be within between 50 and 100 feet away from the BVW. So with that, the performance standards for work under the Wetlands Protection Act are met, because if you just go state law, the presumption is that the 8 interests of the act are preserved if you stay at least 50 feet away from your leach field. It doesn't account for any grading, but the grading here is at least 50 feet away as well. So the question is, and I'll read it directly from my notes. The general question to the commission, however, is the impacts under the bylaw. The thing to consider before the vote is whether the increase in bedrooms is worth the additional BVW and AWRA disturbance. If you so wish, the commission could decide that A, the increase in bedrooms will not result in adverse impact to resource area as a result of the additional clearing and grading in the AWRA for the new leach field. Or B, rule that because a 2-bedroom house was already approved and that it is not necessary or desirable to have the additional permanent impact of the AWRA. In this way, there is no Fifth Amendment taking without just compensation argument. The woods on the side of the wetland they're proposing leach field on is good to high-quality forest, no invasives. Also, the mitigation proposed today is the same mitigation proposed in 2015 when they were keeping the leach field in the existing yard. So, the mitigation that was proposed in 2015 included cleanup of junk and invasives in this area right here, cleanup invasives in this area as well, What else what else, Peter?
Roof recharge?
That's right, we had a Caltech unit down here. And I believe there were signs proposed as well.
The boulders, yeah.
Boulders, yeah. So the question isn't so much, is that still good enough? Mitigation, adequate mitigation to overcome any potential adverse impacts? The commission made a ruling that that's what was necessary in 2015 for what was proposed at the time. The question of the commission is whether or not you still think that that's adequate.
Are there trees coming down?
Yes.
How many?
Within the proposed leach fields. I don't know an exact number. The leach field is 39 by 10, the clearing area, for the leach field is.
See,
Yeah, I know.
Pictures, Brandon, of the lot?
what you want, what?
50 by 60, so probably 3,000 square.
Pictures of the lot, he said.
I have pictures from 2015.
It might just help us, or help me, I should say.
Sure. 2015 pictures. I'm at the street looking in. Going down, yep, there's a little garage on the right-hand side.
I know that house.
There's a house, so the leach field was gonna go somewhere in here. Looking into the wetland. There's the Japanese knotweed that's next to the garage, up in that area, yep. They're gonna get rid of. Here's the lawn on the south side of the driveway, right in there, yep. Looking into the woods where the wetland is. There's the house. South side of the house. Now I'm on the south side of the house looking back, up. Between the house and the lake. There's Ram's Horn. There it is again. That's the north side, looking back towards the driveway. So I'm standing next to the pond, looking back up. There's the pond again. This is what was along the shore. Oh, I remember. There was a question at the time they wanted to rebuild this, and the question was, is this enough of a wall to be considered an in-kind repair, because it was pretty collapsed, but you're not proposing anything there right now for that? I remember that was withdrawn.
There is a dock, I believe, on the,
Yeah, 20 by 12-ish.
proposed dock, right?
Okay, now we're in the wetland, a little stream in there. So you'd have to cross over the stream with this.
Under the stream, yeah.
Right. Well, you'd have to, we're gonna get some kind of ditch witch or something, or are you gonna be doing
Yeah,
a
that's the idea, or,
little mini?
on that plan, we show a staging area on each side that they would have some.
So I asked you for a, the crossing procedure, which is what you just handed out tonight. Can you explain the procedure?
So there'll be a stabilized staging area at each end, whether that be crushed stone or some kind of rubber matting, for like a mini excavator to stage at, or reach in to the extents that it could, around 10 feet. Dig the trench on half of it, lay whatever pipe they can, go to the other side, complete the trench, finish the pipe. They would stockpile topsoil and subsoil separately, so that when they backfill, they can put the subsoil back in and then use the organic topsoil as the top to match the existing elevation, and then seed whatever was disturbed with some kind of wetland seed mix. And there would be erosion controls on each side of the work area, along with edges of the wetland.
percent
That trench would only have to
biodegradable,
be
the same way.
about 12 inches wide
This is right
to fit that 2-inch pipe. And obviously, they would wanna do it when that stream is not running, which,
Obviously, yeah.
I don't see the detail as 100% biodegradable 12-inch wattles. Not, so make sure there are no plastic mesh on them and they're 100% biodegradable.
I do have a note on this plan, silt fence and 100% biodegradable straw wattle,
Might
at
be
the
on
limit
our
of distance.
Yeah, it must be,
Maybe it's on
That's
the
a-
full plan.
It's on the top left of Bob's, I think.
Full plan.
okay, it's not on this one.
Yeah, it's up there, but it's not on the detail.
I can update that.
I think we need to know how many big trees are coming down, because we have a,
The only other difference, because this is all gonna grow back to crossing.
Yeah.
And the only other difference compared to 3 years ago is the amount of trees coming down. Is that pretty much it?
Well, the tree's coming down, and it's gonna be a permanent little hole in the forest right there for the leach
For
field.
the leach field. You don't have a rough count on the trees, do you? Can you give us anything?
3,000, it's about 3,000 square feet, maybe 15 trees.
And by that,
Plus,
15 plus, yeah.
Well, I would say from the leach field all the way back to the wetlands crossing, there's gonna be a swath that's 8 feet wide. So presumably there's a tree or two within that swath, unless you're gonna think you're going around the trees, the root balls of the trees and everything else, which is not very practical.
we need to know how many trees are coming down and what you're gonna do to mitigate for them.
So you want the additional mitigation for the trees that are coming down? Does that sound reasonable, or?
I think it's only fair.
I mean, if we could had a number tonight, speaking for myself, would be okay to go with this, just to replant some trees somewhere. But, I think it looks great. Other than that,
And what would you want for mitigation measures, just replanting of?
Trees.
Yeah, the idea is to, obviously, you're not gonna be planting more trees where they just got cut down around, that circle, because you need that space for the leach field.
Right.
So the commission's policy is to try to, any plantings you do, usually, try to get it back in the same location, but it's not possible here. What you try to do is just plant as close to the lake to give yourself a vegetated buffer.
Mhm.
And let me see what we got here along the lake right now.
Trees.
Yeah, let's see.
They have to be
There is-
native
There is a
trees.
strip right along the bank. Last time I was there, maybe another 5 foot, to 10.
That's ringing a bell to me. I think maybe that might be in the order of conditions from the last time.
Let's see. Nope.
No?
You had those 2 hemlock trees with a little bench there.
Right, yeah, we had a note, between dock and stairway, keep shrubs growing all along bank and periodically coppice one time for 5 years to maintain lake visibility.
I remember that.
But
Maybe you could make that a little wider.
Sure.
So, maybe bring it back to where the same setback as these little trees right here, these big trees, which would probably be, I'm guessing, 10 feet. If you could put a row of bushes up to give it a little bit more of a vegetated buffer. You could lose, say, 10 feet of lawn right there, which doesn't seem like you're not gonna lose a view. I don't think you're gonna be losing any significant amount of play area. So I think that might be a decent compromise
Mhm.
for mitigation.
Just a 1-to-1.
And that was shrubs. You gotta do 2 to 1 at least with shrubs.
So we need to know how many trees are coming down and,
Yeah, you could do a staggered row.
Yep.
All along that. So you're looking, I think you're gonna look at least 30 shrubs, native shrubs, stagger row along the water.
Would that be something that we could condition, like how many trees come down over a certain diameter, or?
The trees are over 5 inches in diameter, the only ones that really count.
Right.
It's up to you. Do you wanna condition it tonight, or you wanna wait for another one?
Well, I mean, I would like to see area disturbance, or how much is gonna be disturbed between the wetlands and the leach field. Is that an 8-foot wide path, or is it gonna be 15 feet wide? I don't know.
I mean, the idea between, the clearing and the wetland is not to take any trees. There will probably be some, because.
I agree, it's a good thought, I just
How
don't
about you
know.
do this? How about you go back out in the field and you stake out your proposed line? And stake out the corners of the leach field.
Is this the one we were waiting for a stamp?
That way I can go out there, figure out how many trees are coming down, and you can do it yourself,
That's the other one.
that are over
Okay.
5 inches. So we can come up with a number of shrubs to be planted along the shore. Is the new buyer here? Any issues with it?
I guess I don't understand exactly where the shrubs would have to go.
Let me bring up an aerial photograph. Gets a little pixelated at this scale, but. So you have the yard between the house and the pond, which is lawn. And right at this bank where all those stones are, there's shrubbery growing up in that the commission allowed the previous owner to cut back once every 5 years so you don't lose your view, just as long as it stays nice and thick, because the vegetation is a good buffer. It stabilizes the bank, takes out pollutants, slows down water and flooding and all that. The idea would make that lose about 10 feet of lawn in here, right along the water, to create that buffer a little bit wider
10 feet which way?
towards the
Vertically,
house.
horizontally?
Towards the house. So I'm thinking staggered row of shrubs like blueberries and high bush blueberries would be fine.
and the,
When
the
I'm saying
du-
it's perpendicular to the house?
No,
or
parallel to the bank.
So it would basically be like a fence with blueberry bushes?
Yeah.
Between the house and the water?
Right.
And how would we cross that?
Well, you already over in here where the stairs are, on the right-hand side.
Okay,
You'd still be able to keep that path that open down here. So
Right.
you'd still be able to keep your area to the dock.
Could throw in something just
sure,
as a possibility here?
Yeah.
On the left-hand side of the house,
Looking which way?
looking towards the lake.
Yeah.
It appears that the clearing line is one place and the wetland flags are well into the lawn.
It's already growing back.
Yeah, that's not a proposed clearing line, that's the existing.
That's existing.
Well, I understand it, and I was thinking
Oh,
if it was
yeah,
an
yeah.
existing, that'd be an ideal place to put the blueberries and stuff
Right,
like
yeah.
that. It's in the wetlands, it's not affecting the view of the lake and everything else is where I was going with this.
Right, right.
If it can't be done because it's already something else, it's something else.
It's already growing back.
What's it growing back with though? Is there room for a couple trees there?
All right, could you put a couple trees in?
Let's see why
Just to
not.
take less off the lake?
Right.
Kinda maybe do a mix?
Right, we don't wanna block the whole, all your access to the lake.
No.
Well, you're just jump starting it a little bit more over here, because this is what it looks like right now.
Mhm.
So you got some tall shrubs in here already, if these aren't small trees, but you've got this grown in already, and that was 3 years ago.
Got room for 5 red maples?
Sure.
Another thought is where they're doing the bittersweet and Japanese knotweed and all that removal. What's that gonna look like after it's removed?
well, the area that's already in the woods is still gonna look like woods. It's just the understory that they're taking care of. But the Japanese knotweed over by the garage,
I was thinking on the other side for the most part.
what other side?
Well, on the left-hand side again, on the wetland side.
Oh, over in
You're
here?
working in the wetlands, taking that stuff out, the bittersweet and Japanese knotweed.
Oh, yeah,
In the wetlands, you're taking that out, whether or not.
Over in this area.
when you remove that material out of there, does that give you an opportunity now to put a wetlands plan in there again and say, I mean, you're doing the right thing by putting it in the wetlands and providing vegetation in the wetlands, but you're not necessarily putting it in the dry spot next to the lake.
The only problem with that is you're probably gonna have to use some sort of herbicide to get rid of that knotweed, and so you don't wanna
I don't
kill
know.
the plants you just put in.
That's why I was leaving it up to Brandon, as whether it was a possibility.
That side, maybe not really, but this area over here next to the garage, the Japanese knotweed's so thick that there's nothing growing in the understory, so there is a strip between the woods and the lawn. You could probably get a few trees.
Yeah, I'd like
You
to
know.
see them rip that out with the
Yeah.
machine, put a few trees there if they're not opposed.
Yeah, but it's gonna keep coming up, so you're gonna
Well,
have
you
to
don't-
treat it with herbicide.
Japanese knotweed, you don't wanna rip it out, because then
Yeah.
you're gonna move the soil, and then you're just gonna transfer the problem somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what you do,
Yeah,
just,
that wouldn't be good.
you know, so you just cut it and you zap it with herbicide.
Well, if they cut it and zapped it this year, they've got a couple of years to get everything growing, so obviously they could try to kill it off prior to planting.
Can you kill that with matting, like under stone?
It-
No, and
It
I've
comes up
been,
onto
goes right
I've been
concrete.
involved with that. I have seen, the roots go 15 feet to wrap around.
Wow.
This stuff is nuclear. The Japanese knotweed, it's terrible.
And that's how it spreads, people taking soil with stuff in it.
Yeah, I had a project in Lakeville where they didn't like herbicides, so they said, put tarp over it and shade it. And it just went around. It's unbelievable.
I think that'd be a good spot for a couple of trees, just 'cause the lake, there's not much room on the water,
Well,
personally.
it would be, but you,
Yeah, but
you
they
gotta
could,
get,
they could start killing it, they get 3 years to get the
yeah, well, it'll
certificate.
take 20.
You could put 3 trees here, you could put 5 trees next to the house, so this,
There's eight.
7 or
Well,
8.
they can
7,
figure
8.
it out.
That's 8.
right, so then you gotta put,
Couple bushes down at the lake.
I don't know
Right.
about a couple, but, you know,
Well-
we gotta count how many trees are coming down.
You could put 4 trees.
We're open to suggestions.
Right.
We're not telling you they have to go down the lake. If you can find room to
Right.
put them in these wetland areas that we're talking about, or places with invasive species, we'll support that as well as putting them someplace else.
But they have to be native species, and if it's, in 2.5 inch caliber trees, or 2 shrubs for 1 tree.
Yeah, which is 4 to 6 foot high.
Where your line's going through, woods, I just like
Yep.
pin that down so that everybody knows what trees are coming down or what's not
Right.
going down through there.
Stake out the center line, stake out the corners of the leach field, and then we'll go from there. Get a head count on the trees.
Yep.
Email me.
If you wanna email that sooner rather than later, we can all kinda try to wrap our brains around it, so the next meeting we should be able to get.
Right. Yeah, I will do that.
And a planting plan for where you're gonna propose to put the trees.
You ready, 2 weeks?
Sounds good. 2 weeks.
Make a motion to continue to November 7th at
7 PM.
7 PM.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, yeah, there we go.
There's not that much room to plant there.
Couple.
Okay. Okay. Next is Mr. Murphy with an ANRAD for 1 Smith Road.
Continuation, right?
Yes.
Make a motion to waive the reading of 1 Smith Road.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Might as well start with me. So Bob,
Just quickly to let you know that we have a file number now. In fact, we have two.
Two.
We have 80 and 81.
what?
I thought the last filing was 8-1.
They messed that up.
Yeah.
I
I
have
got
8-0.
880.
Yeah,
Could you pull up the DEP website, Brandon, and see if,
here it is.
I did this morning and it wasn't on.
Cause that.
well, they just told us the
Alicia
last
said-
filing was 8-1.
It's still not on. I don't know if I can pull it up.
Well, I got a number, 10-4 was 80, and then I got an email from Wanda today that said it was 81, so.
Oh,
I know
maybe.
I know I have one of them anyway.
Yeah, I believe it came in the day after you were here, like you
Always
predicted.
the way it works, right?
Right, as I expected. With that, I'll,
Let's see.
see, I don't know if they have it on their page or not.
There it is.
Find it.
See that? See that blank spot?
Yeah, but the paper I got, look in the file, flip the,
So 8-1 is that 107 West
There.
Mulberry Road.
So, yeah,
there'll be a DEP number thing.
it's gotta be 80, right?
Yeah.
This,
Must be
Nope,
8-0.
That's it.
Well, this is the. the
yes,
page.
0880. This is it right here.
Yeah.
What I thought it
Okay.
was.
So you might.
You got it.
Anyway,
8-1 is
we have a number.
107.
80.
I can see why you wanted to have a second pair of eyes on this, Bob.
Yeah.
The site's a little funny.
It's,
There was a foot or more of fill everywhere I went,
Wow.
on top of buried, soil. Doesn't look like it was ever stripped, but there was as much as some places 2 feet of fill on top of the original soil. And it was silty soil over sand. It was the Hinckley soil, but you had a silt cap on top.
yeah, from what I understand, the site, there was a barn, there was a foundation, and the site had been, years ago, had been stripped and regraded, but long before the Wetlands Protection Act.
It was also part of the Stewartier subdivision.
Yeah.
That one didn't get used.
And it appears,
wet.
from what I could see, that the upper portions of the property where we did the perk tests were, Hinkley sanded gravel. And it appeared in the central part, down near the wetlands, that someone had excavated a lot of gravel out of here at one time. And, appeared to have affected the edge of the wetland because they went down so far. And then the gas company came in, you can see where the gas line goes right across where the little hand is, right there. That's the gas line that goes right through the wetlands.
Right, this is the National Grid
And,
line.
it's like putting a French drain right through the wetlands, all the water passes down through it, goes to the lower property. So there's no question the site has been altered tremendously over the last 100 years, where gravel was taken out, and oftentimes, in order to make a property still valuable to the owner, they'll bring in material after they take the gravel out. They take in less desirable material, which I found when I was doing the borings, even along the edge of the wetland. So, you've got hydrosoil now, and you have wetland vegetation, but it's, there's a history of alteration just in the soil. I don't know when it happened, but you can see that along Smith Road, all along the road portion, the Hinkley basically soil and the stone walls are original. They've been there for over 100 years. But as you go into the site, it drops off dramatically. There's also a lot of, right, the road coming in up at the top, that's Stone School Road. A lot of the drainage comes right down Stone School Road, passes over Smith Road and just kind of drains into this site. So there was a lot of evidence of severe drainage, you know, where all the leaves were pushed around and everything. But that was road drainage, it was coming in, it wasn't like wetland.
Okay.
I personally, I look at it as a marginal lot for development, but my client wishes to develop it as a result of, basically it's a property that was a tax taking. It appears that it's, you know, if you wanted to put a house in there, you'd have to bring in a lot of fill, because your foundation's gonna be in the groundwater. But the area along Smith Road where we did the perk testing meets Title V requirements for a septic system. It's Hinkley sand, which is why if you look over on the other side, in the lower part, that's the landfill area. And that's in gravel. That's a big sand gravel deposit. So it, you know, as far as soil goes, it was perfect for Title V, but it's been ravaged. You could almost, I don't know, if you look at the left-hand side, you could see there are foundations for a building, for a few that have been an old barn. So the property was used. Unfortunately, now it seems to be more, there's a lot of trash on this site, a tremendous amount of broken bottles, metal, you know, like old farm equipment, stuff like that. So, you know, the site's been, what do you say, it hasn't been well managed for a long time.
So I think that the INRAD can be approved with the following adjustments. Okay. Move flag number 5 northeast 15 feet. Move flag 14 west 15 feet.
Could you put that on a list?
Let's say that again, I'm trying to write it down here. Flag number 5 northeast 15 feet.
Yeah. Flag 14 west 15 feet. Eliminate flag number 15. And what you do is you connect flag 13 to the revised flag 14 and then connect the revised 14 to flag 16. That's it.
So, 14 to 16?
14 to 16, yep. That still leaves test pits 3 and 4 at least 100 feet away from wetland boundary, which is what you would need for your leach field. Looks like 1 and 2 are still gonna be within 100 feet. But I didn't, the adjustment on flag 5 doesn't even affect that.
Dale, it's 140, the 50, Title V is 50 feet, is a bylaw.
Sutton's 100 feet. The Board of Health has a
Bylaw.
bylaw says 100 feet, yeah. You're right.
We have enough room that we can get it in there.
So this would be an ORAD.
Correct.
Alright, make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a motion to issue an ORAD for 1 Smith Road with the agreement that flag number 5 moves northeast 15 feet, flag number 14 moves west 15 feet, eliminate flag 15 and connect flag 13 to 14 and connect flag 14 to 16.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna write that down for me.
I've got it on here, Wanda.
Yeah, 13 to the new 14, and 14 to
14 to 16.
eliminate.
Eliminate 15. Yeah, and it was tough because of the fill over buried soil and weird situation. Not an easy one.
Oh, wait a
You
minute.
did pretty good, Bob.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah, I think you did pretty good.
it was an odd one.
It was. I can understand, because I think that's about the first A and ride you ever brought in.
Yeah, usually I just do the one.
You just
This
do-
one
you
I
just-
wasn't too,
Yeah, I can understand why you wanted a second pair of eyes on it.
okay, I appreciate your assistance. Yep. Thank you all very much.
Good night, Bob.
No,
Okay, wanna sign this, pass that down.
yes.
See anybody's name, so it doesn't matter where I sign it.
No.
I'll do better.
Thank you.
Okay, I can't fix it now, next one I'll try to do more.
And the next one is 30 Horn Drive, a continuation.
Make a motion to waive the reading of 30 Horn Drive.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna recuse myself as a butter.
Do we have the abutters notifications?
Yes, those got submitted, for Wanda on October 4th, if I'm not mistaken, the date. And then I do have the white cards if you need any sort of additional verification for that.
Yeah, I need the cards.
Sure.
I'll get them back to you.
Do we have stamped engineered plan?
Not for this one here, we were still awaiting some confirmation on a few items, but we can get you over a stamp plan, this coming week.
Oh, I need the green cards,
So it's
not
in-
these.
It's administrative incomplete
You
with,
already have the green cards.
Should give them to
Oh,
you.
okay, then you keep
Yep,
these.
okay, perfect.
so I don't believe we can't close without the engineered plans.
That's understandable as far as the closing goes for it. Would we at least still be able to, request for the order with that being, any sort of stipulation in that case?
I don't
or-
think so.
Okay.
I don't know, but anybody else? Brandon, can you? No. I think we need the engineered plans.
Well, you need it to be stamped, but you can stipulate, if you're happy with the design, just condition it, well, just have a requirement that they bring in a stamped plan during the 21 days. I don't think that's that big of a deal.
Okay.
And then, just so you all are aware, we do have a couple of small minor revisions just on some of the notes and everything.
Can you tell us what those revisions were?
Sure thing. So going back, for a quick recap of, last meeting, Bob, you had some concerns over the channelization of the water between the Stilling Basin and then the lake. So we ended up, proposing, through here, it's Carthage or Mills, or any sort of approved equivalent. It's gonna be a polypropylene turf reinforcement mat, and that'll be able to overlap into the basin about a foot to a foot and a half, depending on manufacturer specifications, and then it'll still have a few extra feet on the opposite side of it. Those will be staked down into the ground, so that will be a more permanent way to kind of disperse all the water without having any sort of erosion take place with that mat in the future. And then essentially we will be proposing right behind that the additional plantings and everything, per the request request of the commission, just in order to help kind of slow down any sort of discharge from that stilling basin, as well as promote any sort of growth and wildlife that's going to be going through there. So that was one of the first changes that we brought up. As far as the next one goes, we ended up adding in a note for the straw bales to be proposed along the backside of that basin, so we can kind of help contain any sort of additional water or siltation that might be going with that new riprap being installed.
I believe
And
you, do you mean straw bales or do you mean wattles?
Bales,
We are
we
proposing
talked about
bales behind the basin, and then we
Okay.
are also using straw wattles, which we do add the detail for that, 100% biodegradable. That will be running along the edge of the basin in its entirety for it.
Okay. What's this one? Paper Street?
It's just a street that was never constructed. Doesn't exist.
And then in addition to that, for some of the other changes, we ended up coordinating with our client, Sharon Reardon, to see exactly what sort of plantings that she might want to have on her site. We also confirmed that with some local municipalities for their regulations for landscaping. And we also have on our upper right-hand corner a proposed plantings list. If that's something that would be acceptable to the commission, if we would like to request that it will be up to Sharon, and she can coordinate further if needed with any sort of landscaper in that case, to get any sort of plantings that might be needed to kind of help reestablish some vegetation down in that area, as I mentioned before, help with the erosion issue that's over there.
Okay, there's, they have to be native and some of these are not native.
Okay.
So hoster is not native, depends on what kind of iris you plant. Bee-balm, I'm not sure is native. Coneflower, I'm not sure is native, so they have to be native.
We can revise that as well for it.
I'm the owner, Sharon Reardon, and a neighbor has all of that.
Well,
And it was by a local botanist. And there's only 2 specific hostas that I went and researched at the Worcester Public Library that are native.
Hostas aren't native that I know of, but, if the neighbor has them, they might have not done it as part of our mitigation. So if you're mitigating for conservation, they have to be native plantings.
Okay.
You
What
can,
are
you can,
they
al-
mitigating for?
It's for, you told us that we needed to have this rain garden. So that's what I went and researched. Because
I
I
think it
was
was a-
unfamiliar, so I could
Okay.
be familiar.
I don't think it was a rain garden, it was a suggestion that you create a little vegetated buffer between the stilling basin and the water. As, you know, as a buffer strip to the water, and they said no problem, so that's where the planning list comes in.
Okay,
So
Well-
it's not mitigation as far as,
so, yeah,
as far as I know.
all right.
As far as the list goes, I mean, we can obviously go through and revise it, or maybe specify something a little bit more specific for those plantings. if
Yeah,
the
for
commission
native-
requests.
Well,
native.
What we're saying is, I think we're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, Brandon, here, but I think what we're saying is that you're planting whatever shrubs you're planting there because you want them there, not because we want them there.
Okay.
So,
No, I was doing it because I thought that I needed more plantings.
Well, see, this is, this is where the area you're thinking about putting the
Yes.
plants, right? And that was a suggestion that I made last meeting. I said, well, what do you think about putting some plantings between the stilling basin and the water as a buffer strip? And the answer was, okay, right?
That I could.
You could,
and you can now, if that's what you wanna do, you don't have to do it.
right. It's a good idea. It's a policy that the commission has to try to improve water quality and reduce erosion.
Which is what she's doing with this plan.
Right.
She's
I'm
going
trying to
well
do
and
it.
above, overboard to try to reduce the runoff going into lakes.
Right.
That in itself, in my mind, is mitigation for any work within the buffer zone. My only concern at all on this is with the volume of water coming down there, the pond is not gonna hold it. It's gonna spill over the pond. When it spills over the pond, water tends to collect in a ditch and head to the lake.
Yep.
And whenever whatever it collects increases in velocity and it erodes out and you end up with a ditch and you end up with a maintenance issue.
And that's where the suggestion for the polypropylene mat comes into play for it.
Whatever you choose to do, I mean, another thought, if you wanna do, would be just reinforced, turf, which is nothing more than you got the plastic cones and you plant the grass in the top so that it doesn't run out or erode out, it runs over the top of it. But I'm not gonna tell you what to use.
Okay.
And I was bringing this up for two purposes. One is we don't want erosion in the lake. And two is to try to make your project easier for you to maintain and live with versus a potential problem that I thought I saw, that's all.
Okay.
And the plantings, I don't think we're requesting, or we're not demanding the plantings,
Okay,
all right?
I was thinking that.
Brandon suggested
They
the
were.
plantings as a way of maybe helping to
I was
reduce the
ebullient.
erosion going to that is, he was
Well, the rain,
spitballing, right?
the rain
I
garden,
was ebullient that a buffer strip could be put in. I think that's great for the lake, but, you know, ultimately it's up to you.
well, the
And
rain,
if they do plantings, yes, it has to be a native species, that's
Yeah.
all.
Well,
Um,
that's something that we can definitely coordinate a little bit further with Sharon, and when we do submit a stamp plan back to the commission, we can make sure that all of that has been addressed for it.
on the plan here, it says paper street not constructed, so what does that mean?
I believe originally in one of the deeds or one of the more, I guess, larger subdivision plans, or I'm not exactly too sure of the terminology used in this case, but we do have some streets that were shown on there. They're not anything that's been constructed. I don't believe there is any intent to have them constructed, but it is something that was originally recorded.
I think I remember a swale, when this came before us before, that there was a swale going down on the left side of the house.
No,
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 That's my.
That's,
that's yours?
left side of, yeah,
of his house.
looking downhill.
It's the
Okay.
left side of his house.
And then, I believe the last, note that we do have, was, just added to where we have the proposed riprap swale. That was just per Mike's request of making sure that that swale will be constructed first for it. Other than that, we have, no changes, that has really occurred. It's just been mostly addressing those items. And, we're just looking to see if the commission had any, further input before we try to finalize and get everything wrapped up here.
Bob, any more?
Nope.
Mike?
Looks good.
Good. Nope.
make a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Make a motion to issue an order of conditions for 30 Horn Drive, with the understanding that any plantings are native and that we have a stamp plan within the 21-day appeal, Brandon, is that fine?
Yes. Within the 21-day period that the order to condition has to get up.
Anybody gonna second it?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much.
Good work,
Appreciate
thank
that.
you.
Congratulations. Probably Joyce is a good,
I have a list I can email you if you,
Yeah. My email is all small letters, S.
well, why don't you just write it down,
Okay.
unless you want the whole town to know.
No. Thanks.
Well, there's only 3 people that watch this thing anyway.
More than you expect sometimes.
Never know. I checked out the YouTube views on a couple of them. This video has been viewed 1 time.
Thank you
Probably
so
need to
much.
watch that. It was me, yeah.
And if you notice, just one letter is taken off, okay?
Okay,
All right?
Thank you.
thank you.
Have a good night,
All right,
thank you.
thank you.
No, we gotta sign it.
Yeah, but is
It's not
that,
stamped.
that's not.
So we
Oh,
don't
it's
wait.
not stamped, so we can't do it now, yeah.
You have to sign the
Just
order.
the reference on the stamp when it comes
Yeah.
in, right?
I have
What did I do? We need a stamp plan, what was the other thing?
Stamp plan and that all the plants have to be native.
All native plants.
Here's the sign.
Okay.
There it is.
You know, I've noticed on YouTube, really bad receding hairline. You can see it. It's spray paint. It's awful.
Yeah,
This is the wrong stuff.
there it is, number 17.
100 feet, right?
Yeah, that, then hindsight being 20/20, that means that 107 is gonna be,
What?
107 West Millbury is not gonna happen if Board of Health.
Well, they could get a
Considers that
variance for
strict.
from that, right?
Well, that, they said that's the reason why, anyway, I'm talking out of turn, the hearing's not open, anyway. I'm gonna let him know.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest that.
All right,
Then table it.
yes, let's do these and then we'll go back.
Make a motion to table the minutes of October 3rd to.
No, I thought we were gonna switch these.
Oh, okay.
Table this one and,
Yeah, but you have to read it in first, I think, don't you?
No,
no,
No?
no, it's,
continuation.
You need a motion for it?
Well, we
Yes.
don't,
Make a motion to table the public hearing scheduled for 8 o'clock until after the 23 Tucker Lane.
Second?
why?
Why?
because it'll take more time.
Oh, okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, okay, now the minutes, we need to table.
Who did the second on that, I'm sorry?
I did.
Table the minutes to November 7th meeting.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
219 Manchog Road, Strasner?
Yes, so I did the certificate of compliance inspection. And, let me bring it up. I have some concerns. Mike, you built this one, right? No?
Sold the land 5 years ago, and I think after 2, it's not a conflict anymore. That's
You
what I
might be
was-
right.
And I didn't build this house.
I don't know, well, you might be right, I guess. You did own the land at one time, you sold the
Sold it
land.
5
to-
years ago.
Yeah, I don't see a conflict.
Okay.
I have no really,
Okay, so that's.
unless somebody, well, I mean, if someone feels there's a conflict, I'd step down. I don't feel there is. I don't feel I would be swayed in my vote in any way.
Okay.
Check cleared, right?
Yeah. 5 years ago. But it's good to state it.
Okay, so up by the house, they have their lawn, but there's a little bump out over here, and I don't know if it goes beyond the limit of clearing. They have a little area where it's not lawn, it's sand. It's where they have their little outdoor fireplace with chairs around it. And it looks like to me like it might be beyond the limit of clearing, and I would like to get some verification on that because it looks to me like it's beyond where they're supposed to be. It would be over in this area, or maybe in this area right here. So I'm not sure. You might have to get, me back out there to pull tape at a minimum. But that's not really the big issue. The big issue has to do with the the little detention basins that Bob had proposed. Oh, I wish I'd remembered he might have stuck around. Okay, so we have, there's the two basins. Here's the first one right here. There's a wetland over here that they had rutted up during the the forestry operation, which is all fixed, all taken care of. But this basin was supposed to be 2 feet above the groundwater. The bottom of the basin was supposed to have 2 feet of separation to the groundwater table. It's full of water right now. And it's spilling over into the woods over here and going downhill towards that other house. This was a problem when they were originally came in, and Mike, you remember all the rutting that went on? Big time rutting, and there was water flowing down into that lot 1, which is now the one they're building.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let me see if I can get some old pictures anyway. Where would it be?
Remember, there was the main driveway was flooding out, right? Wasn't it
was.
coming up and going over the asphalt?
That's not an issue now.
Not okay.
So that basin is up here, and it's overflowing into an old cart path, haul road for the skid steer.
Yeah, logging trails.
Right, so it comes down into this area right here. See all the water that's ponding up? Well, it's still ponding up, and what they did was, it gets to this stone wall right at the back of the new house on lot 1, and it just ponds up. And this is turned into a little wetland. There's bulrush, chock full in here, and I was walking through it today, and it's almost up to my ankles in water. So what ended up happening is that the owners of the new house, or the builders of the new house up by the road, which is over in here, they blew a hole, I don't know, somewhere over here. It's really thick. You can't. It looks nothing like this now. It's a jungle. They blew a hole and made a ditch that has stone in it that runs along the side of the driveway to the lower detention basin, which is chock full of water. The lower detention basin by the road was, the bottom of the basin was supposed to be right at the groundwater table, okay? No 2 feet of separation, just right at the water table. That one's chock full of water and cattails. So, and then that overflows into the field, which is now growing up like a jungle, and it flows into that ditch along the road, and then down the hill and down to Manshog. It's been there for 3 years now, stabilizing itself. I haven't heard of any blowout problems along the road, so maybe this isn't that big of an issue. But I do know that if the folks here at Lot 1, which is the house is over here now, if they didn't blow that hole through the wall to reroute the water into that lower basin, they would be getting a full brunt of water that's coming off the hill here, which is not good. Nobody's complained as of yet, but I'm wondering what's gonna happen when the people finally move into that house on Lot 1 and they've been there for a little while. I wouldn't put it by that they come up to Wanda to look at the order of conditions with a complaint that there's too much water coming off the hill. This area was not a wetland, but what ended up happening is the skid steers came through here and they totally rutted it up, sunk the land.
It's all ledge.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
ledge just bottomed out and it left big pools
With
with nowhere for the water to
they
go.
changed the direction that the water came down. That was one of the problems, is the water was supposed to be going through the woods way over here on Nick Nunemacher's land. It got
Yep.
rerouted to come through here, so there was a berm that was put up to keep the water on that side. That appears to still be happening, but the water that's coming down the side of the driveway that goes into that upper basin still flows into this area. It's either overflowing into this area or just, sidewall leaching into through the ground and popping out right here. So I have concerns for the people who end up living at that lot 1, and their happiness living there is gonna be very dependent on that that interceptor trench that was built.
Go back to the drawings.
Yep. So lot 1 is right here. I bet you there's,
Is that showing an overflow coming out of that detention pond that's supposed to follow along the edge of the road and go down to the next pond?
correct, but there's flow coming out through here.
So that means the pond wasn't built according to the drawings because it's not functioning correctly. It's not, the water's not going out the overflow and going down to,
I think that part of the problem is that this was supposed to be 2 feet above the seasonal high water table, and it's chock full of water. I think that's part of the problem. Either the bottoms become impervious for whatever reason, or the water tables weren't estimated correctly. Or there's just a lot of water coming off the hill.
You brought up a good point. Doesn't detention ponds need maintenance once or twice a year, scour the bottom, because they get filled with sediment?
You know that never happens.
Well, but these are 4 or 5 years old?
Yes.
3 anyways?
Yep.
Have they, you just said they're ingrown with cat and nine tails, is it just the bottoms are silted out, you think?
I think
It
that
could be
that's
made.
definitely, the cat nine tails would be grown in the silt, yeah.
So you're thinking we need to add riprap and build up the outer edges and change the grade of the bottom?
Maybe,
Just make them a little taller, a little higher?
maybe.
Not the engineer, right?
Well, that all sounds good, but then an engineer will come in and say, you know, you have it wrong and you never right to critique my work to begin with, you know?
Yep.
But I do think that, I'll tell you what, it doesn't seem to be operating like it's supposed to.
But I guess, do we see any, is there any, so just because I go down the road 10 times a day, I mean, I live almost across the street, a
Mhm.
few houses down. I'm not a direct abutter, I'm probably 4 or 5 houses down. Is that far enough away? I did think of that. I'm quite
You're
I'm
not,
about 5 houses away. I've never seen anything in the street. I mean, even in the winter, I plow across the street. My neighbor, which is right across the street, I don't plow Mike's, but I've never seen any issues in the 2 years that I've lived there as far as anything in the road, it's got a pretty substantial ditch right at the mouth of their driveway. I think they have a pipe that crosses. So if there's a breach through the wall, I'm sure there's a ditch that carries the water downstream. So I guess the question would be, is that adding to the flow that goes down that ditch culvert? That I know that by the time it gets down towards the bottom, it's flowing, and it's really deep.
well, you know why, is because it does intercept an actual stream that's coming out of Nick's land.
Yeah, right.
But from there up is just a road
Sheet flow.
ditch. It's just a road ditch above that.
So is it just water that probably would have been there anyways?
Well, let me see here. So, let me bring it up. No, we are, oh, geez. It's not even subdivided. This is an old parcel map, so it's not even shown, but
It's map
It's the
number.
far left piece from the street.
What's map number?
it's over, what, it's in here, right?
Correct.
Over in this area.
Correct.
So, lot 1's down in this area.
Correct.
The lower basin's about right here, and it discharges to this corner right here, and then goes into that ditch. As far as I've seen, no one's complained, it's never been an issue. So that's fine. I think that the big issue, the thing that worries me is for the people on lot 1, because the water is built up behind here. It's chock full of wetland plants. If I had never been there before, and I went there today, I would have said there was a wetland behind the house. Okay? Otherwise, it would sheet flow down into here, and I have pictures of that somewhere.
Wasn't one of his requirements to do all wetland, I know he had to oversee all that back there with a wetland mix.
He already did all that.
No, I know, well, you say it looks like a wetland today, didn't he seed it to,
He didn't see, well, I don't know if he seeded that area.
I don't know.
but doesn't it fall back in if the detention pond is properly operating, that the water wouldn't be going in that direction?
One would think.
So the real issue is that the detention pond isn't built correctly?
Very possibly. Yep. I think that the water is, like you said, was supposed to be discharging along the road, and I see water discharging along the back.
I understand, now, that's the first pond.
That's
You
the
come
one
down
up
the
top.
steep driveway,
That's the
that's
one
the
up top.
first one, and from there, it's sending water into the back of lot one.
I think
if the-
so.
If the detention pond gets corrected, the water stays going down the road to the next detention pond, and yeah.
So
then
how
it's
do we
easier,
fix
really.
it?
Well, I wouldn't close the public hearing, I would
Well,
just,
it's already closed, but this
They're
would
looking
be,
for a
This is
certificate.
the certificate.
this is for a certificate of compliance.
well, I don't
so-
think it's that hard to fix. A
So,
detention basin to raise the I mean, I don't think, just tell Mike he needs to take a look at this first detention pond, that we want the water to stay in the first pond, if he's gotta change the elevation of the bottom, then Brandon should do another inspection.
Yeah, I've got it. So, see this stone wall right here?
Mhm.
I'm standing on that stone wall, looking towards me in Shog Road. The house is about right here,
Mhm.
okay? This is before they had made any kind of swale. I want you to notice, there's ruts here, which is partly from machinery, but there's sedimentation and little blowouts going all through here at the time after big storms. So, yeah, there's water coming down that hill, and it's now being rerouted around the house on the left-hand side that goes into the basin that's down in this corner, and then it goes to this corner into the swale. I think that upper pond, upper detention area deserves a second look by a qualified professional. Engineer.
So we should send him a letter, right, Wanda?
maybe Brandon can,
Or Brandon reach out?
you know,
Yeah, well, it was Bob Murphy that.
Yeah, just gonna say,
Oh,
it was Bob,
okay.
Yeah, just-
He said if he had thought about it, he would have asked him to stay, and
Yeah.
so you'll just reach out to Bob, discuss it.
Yeah.
Bob will
Reach
let
out
us
to
know
Bob.
if he feels it needs some work or not, and we'll
Yep.
go from there.
okay.
Moving right along.
184 Manchog Road, he's gotta wait till the water gets down to get out there unless somebody wants to give him a boat ride.
Or I can wait until it freezes up.
Or if you wait till it freezes up.
My boat's right, I mean, I took the motor, but you have to row, it's a little fishing boat.
Give him a jet ski.
Yeah.
Okay, 80 Worcester Providence Turnpike.
You need to do 23 tougher.
Oh, yeah, okay. We'll go back to 80 Worcester Providence Turnpike. All right, 815-23 Tucker Lane, Margaret. And this is a new filing. The Sutton Conservation will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, October 17th, 2018, at 8:15 PM at the Sutton Town Hall, 4 Oxford Road, Sutton, Mass. Purpose of this hearing is to review a notice of intent submitted to the Conservation Commission by Cheryl Seymour, Sutton, Mass. Project consists of a septic repair for an existing house within the 100-foot buffer zone on map 49, parcels 191 on 23 Tucker Lane, Sutton, Mass. This notice is publicized in accordance with the provisions of General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, commonly known as the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Sutton Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Do we have a butters notices, Margaret?
Yes, you do. Okay, here's all the green cards that are back, and then the ones that aren't.
Do we have a DEP number?
No.
No. Do you have applications with other boards, Board of Health, I would
Board of Health,
guess?
Yep.
And I guess that's it.
Okay, for the record, Margaret Bacon, Civil Site Engineering, and I'm here tonight, representing Cheryl Seymour, who's in the audience, for a permit, to construct a septic repair at 23 Tucker Lane. Okay. Basically, there's Tucker Pond here. We're on the back side of it. Tucker Lane. Existing two-bedroom. Well, actually, there's an existing one-bedroom cottage with a one-bedroom and an existing garage. So, there's an existing, I believe it's like a tight tank right adjacent to the house. So what we're proposing is a two-bedroom Presby Enviro septic system over on the side, and there's really, because of, here's Tucker Pond, here's our on-site well, adjoining wells, another well over here. The only buildable space that's outside the 50-foot buffer zone and outside all the wells is right here. And that's where I have the system. And then here's the existing garage where they have a doorway right here, so didn't want to put it in front of the garage. So the only feasible place on this lot would be right here between the garage and the property line. And I do have to ask for waivers from the Board of Health because I'm within 10 feet of the slab and within 10 feet of the sideline. Other than that, it complies with everything else.
Is it sideline and what else? The slab?
The slab. I should be 10 feet away from the garage slab, and I'm about 6.5 feet. And the property line, I'm supposed to be 10 feet away, and I'm 5.6 feet away from the property line. And I used a Presby system because I could make it long and thin to try to fit into this buildable area, but and then we also tried to preserve, there's a big oak tree right here that we're trying to preserve. But there is one tree back here that's gonna come down. And so I did propose, it doesn't show up on this plan, but I did propose to replace that one tree here with 2 maples. And it's on the septic plan, maybe I just had the layer off, but there should be 2 maples here, or Cheryl may wanna put them somewhere else, but to meet that criteria, 2 to 1.
They are on this plan.
Okay, well then, on that plan, I left the layer off.
Brandon?
You wanna go through Board of Health first, see if you can get you need variances for those setbacks?
Yeah, I don't think it'd be a problem, cause like I say, there's really no other place I can go with it, but yeah, wait for the Board of Health.
Okay.
Still have to wait for the DEP too, the file number.
Margaret knows this drill pretty well, I have no comments.
Are we regrading the entire yard, or a good
Oh,
portion?
no, actually, it's an in-ground system.
I see a new contour line between the garage and the house, that's why I was asking.
Well, there is a little, I'm sorry, I'm
No,
gonna be about.
Margaret,
What?
between the garage and the house.
Is there a little,
Oh, I'm sorry, just to make sure that the drainage goes that way.
So
That's all.
I just was looking for
Oh,
the
yeah.
extent that you're regrading.
Yeah, you're right.
around it.
I just don't wanna create a puddle or anything like that in front of the
and I
garage.
should note that it's all lawn, with the exception of the shade trees.
Beg pardon?
It's all lawn with the exception of the shade trees right there, but for most of the property.
Looks good. Yeah, I have no comments on
I
it.
wish we had a DP number.
Right. Everything you bring is pretty cut and dry.
All right, would you like to,
I've beaten her up pretty good.
Because of this one, it's going out.
Yeah.
you'd like to continue to the next meeting?
Sure. Make a motion to continue to November 7th at
Breakout.
7:15.
7:15.
Second.
The other person's property.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Maybe what.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, might as well.
What was that, 7:15?
7:15 November 7th.
We'll aggravate the planning board next week.
Brandon, has DEP been really slow lately with numbers?
Yes, they have. Yes, they have. I think it's just the volume of applications
New
that are
construction
going
stuff.
on right now.
People are building, yeah.
People are building.
And they didn't
big
put
time.
Everywhere.
One Smith Road on the list, so I contacted Judith last week, and I'm back here today, and it's still not on there.
We moved more rental equipment in the last month than we have in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Everybody's
Okay, 80 Worcester Providence Turnpike, did you go there today?
Yes, I did. All the erosion controls are out. Everything is stabilized. We have a letter in from Art Allen giving his blessing on the buffer zone restoration and wetland replication area, which I concur with. The only anomaly is that the riprap swale, starting this time of the year into the spring, it's my opinion that there will be more or less constant flow down through the rocks and into the BBW, and it looks like the flow is gonna go through the wetland replication area. So I wouldn't be surprised if a small creek or stream establish itself down in that area eventually. So I think I think it's still worthy of a complete certificate at this point, just with a note that the hydrology isn't quite what anyone expected it was gonna be. It was probably expected, it was expected to be dry unless there was a storm event, but it's intercepting groundwater during the wet season, and it's gonna have some level of constant flow.
Did you wanna sign the certificate tonight, or are we just letting that continue again?
No, I think it's ready.
I make a motion that it,
You need to give me a minute, cause I didn't reprint it, and you can't sign the one that's here.
I will make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 80 Worcester Providence Turnpike with a complete certificate of compliance. Thank you for all your work on this. And, Bruce, what were you saying, just to mention that it's gonna be?
It's not even something that goes on the plan, I just wanna put it on the record.
Okay, well, you put it on the record there, so.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No, if you wanna give me a minute, I'll have to go print that sheet out, cause you can't sign it. Is
Yeah,
there
just so
something
I'm
else you can do in the
aware of the
meantime?
process, then we would still have to wait to get the certificate of compliance recorded in that case, or, is this something that we would just have to coordinate with Wanda to pick up some paperwork and
Yeah,
then we're all set, or?
What Wanda does is she sends me a draft, I look through it, I might make some changes, and then I send it back to her, and then she calls you or contacts you saying it's ready for pickup, or do you want me to send it in the mail?
Okay.
Once you get it, go to the registry of deeds and record it.
Okay, perfect. Alright, well, thank you guys.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you,
night.
have a great night.
Okay, 44 Lackey Road. I went to 44 Lackey Dam Road because I get the two of them mixed up, but I did go to 44 Lackey Road, and you probably saw the letter that they wrote, that they had people come out and take out the bittersweet and everything, and I did find a little piece close to the road, but other than that, I think it's okay, so I think,
Make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance of 44 Lackey Road.
Second?
all those in favor?
Complete certificate of compliance.
Aye.
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 Okay, well, I don't know, she's got
What's
that one in
next?
there.
Going for 114 Manchong Road?
You can't get ahead of Wanda, she'll never catch up.
Yeah, well, I think they're all in order there, but
Take a few minutes.
114 Manchog Road, Linden Nelson. There were pictures that came in today on that, but it was just today.
There's no letter with it though, right?
Um,
There's a letter.
Was there a letter?
Oh, which one you on?
well, there was a letter from,
We're on, we already did 114 Manchog Road, or we already did 44 Lackey Road, excuse me, we're on 114.
Letters here. You need to sign it if you're, I have your sheet to sign for 80.
which one is this?
Sign that one.
I'm not sure we're signing the right one here. We got, okay, 44 Lackey.
You want to sign that plan too?
Yeah.
Want to stamp it, or doesn't make a difference?
No, it's the other plan. Doesn't matter.
It's 44 Lackey. is, let's have a look.
The solar farm, yep.
I'm glad that's done.
I know. They did a lot of work.
They
though.
did a lot of
Your
work.
name. Oh, okay. Did you sign?
No, no, it was done first.
I wouldn't even know how to sign my name any other way, I've been doing this, so. I can't even do
When
it
you
different.
do 184 Manchog Road, that's the island, Brandon, no need to wait till the door down.
To the-
Yeah, or there's
Which
ice or,
island?
It's the island on,
Well, there's
off
three.
oh, but the one that Bob Pierce used to own.
It's off of Manchog Road, but it's the off of the shore road water's found. It's
The
way
little-
down.
It's off to the west. Yeah, there's a little house on it.
A little,
The red one or brown one or something, right?
There's a white, there's a
Not sure
white,
what
there's a
color
what-
it is
then
anymore.
there's a yellow one, and then there's the one that's kinda hidden, you don't even know there's
It
an
might be the
island
hidden
there.
one, or is it
Yes,
the white
that's
one?
the
It's
one.
the hidden one?
Yeah.
They got power to their island, you
Yeah.
can see the power coming through the
No
woods.
kidding.
Yeah,
This other, no, this one doesn't have power.
I think that's the little white one then.
It could be, they might have changed the color because it was red.
It was
No,
red,
it is the
yeah.
red one, but I think the red one might have added power. Or there's something going over there.
Um,
Yeah.
okay,
Rocky over there, you
Oh,
can't, you're
sorry.
going over near that one.
Super over here with the rest of them, so.
Okay.
on Linda Nelson there, I thought I saw where the engineer had the letter with the pictures today, yeah.
Make a motion.
But no, we can't, nobody's gone out to check it.
So, I thought if we had a letter, we still should look at it?
Yes.
Alright.
Yeah, we've got the letter, it's up to you what you wanna do.
Yeah, we always get the letter and then go look.
Do you wanna look at the
Just-
letter?
I just saw he, like, so over the course of the month,
Here's
she
the letter.
sends, is this the woman that sends pictures and letters of
Yes,
sewer?
yeah,
and-
uh-huh.
Are you signing 219?
Maybe,
No, not signing 219.
No,
This has nothing to do with that, that's
Right,
just
this is yours.
something totally separate.
So we're
yeah,
not
separate.
signing- not
That's a
signing.
separate.
Yeah, Linda Nelson's, nobody's, the stuff came in today, but nobody's gone to see it,
Yeah, so it's,
so we'll wait.
yeah, absolutely. So have it, that's Old Holbrook,
Hmm,
means that you have a letter?
yes, but it was just, came this afternoon with pictures, but,
Then for next time.
10 Trout Hill Road, it says here she called.
She called and I gave her your number and I told her to call you. I think I gave you email also.
No, I didn't see an email, but,
She was supposed to call you to find out when you could set it up.
okay,
Go
well,
see it.
she hasn't called me, so I'll call her.
Okay, her number should be there inside.
Okay.
Inside. Gotta be there somewhere.
All right,
wait
well,
a
I'll
minute.
get it
No,
later.
it's on her file.
Yeah. All right, how about November 21st meeting? Are we gonna make it the 14th or the 28th, or we just gonna skip?
Are you just gonna skip it? We don't seem to be too busy at this point.
We only get two on for November 7th, right? 7
Right.
is, and they're both continuations.
Mhm.
7:15 was that's Margaret's, which is DEP number,
Right,
should be
that's about
slam
it.
dunk.
107.
Do we need to make a
Make a
motion?
decision at the next meeting, or does it
No.
has to be?
No.
No, it has to be now.
tonight, yeah, it says it's up.
Only because if I get something in tomorrow,
No, I don't
I've gotta
think
be able to put it on the 7th, and I will have to let all the engineers know that November 21st is not a meeting.
The only thing I would say is this time of the year, and I know 2 weeks can make a huge difference of you starting a project.
Yeah, 'cause you,
And I'm not saying, I'm just saying that I don't mind coming the second time on a different date, just on the side of caution.
I won't be here on the 28th, if that makes a difference.
What days could we do?
The 14th or the
So we're
28th?
meeting the
7th.
7th, so you don't wanna do the week after, that would be moved.
could we do a set up for a meeting, and if nothing comes in or nothing major, we don't have it?
You could do that on either the 14th or the 28th, can't do it the 21st.
Does it have to be on a Wednesday?
Yes.
So you're looking
Why
at
does it have to
14th?
be on?
Other
Because
boards.
other boards.
Okay,
can't-
yep, no, no.
can't-
I agree with Mike's point, you don't wanna hold up someone.
Well, just this time of the year, if it was July, I would say, huh, they could wait, you know, but November, December,
Frost is
Yeah,
coming.
but I can't be here. On
But,
Thursday.
yeah, it's just one Thursday night.
if we can, if we can't.
Wanda can't be here on Thursdays, so it looks
I
like
can't
we're
do
back to
Thursdays.
Wednesdays. So the 14th or the 28th, but then you'll be having, either way, you're either gonna have a week between the 7th and 14th, or a week between the 28th and the 5th.
If we do the 28th though, they could make like it would just, it's up to you guys, I would do the 28th, just out on the side of caution.
You could use the 28th as simple things, or
You could also set the meeting, and then if there's nothing that's actually on a public hearing, we wouldn't have to meet to come in to sign certificate of
I could do
compliances.
that, because I'm gonna get paperwork on the 8th, would be for the 21st, but I would have to be known that it would only be for the 28th. I could do that,
We trying too
and
hard?
then on the 7th.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I
mean,
think
you
so.
know,
I
mean,
think-
we-
I think
but we
like
gave it a
it's-
good effort.
It's the beginning of December too. The first meeting in December is what?
The 7th.
5th.
Oh, it's the 7th,
I'm
the
sorry.
5th. So
Yeah,
it's
so you do it
fairly
the week
early in the
before
month.
I would say skip it, but that's
I would
just,
say skip it
cause you're
too.
only gonna.
Now that we talked it out, I agree. I just wanted to talk it out
Yep.
the time of the year.
So you say skip it?
Anybody wanna make a motion?
Make a motion to only have one meeting in November on November 7th, and next meeting would be the first week of December.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Take that out of my calendar.
What are you gonna do that Wednesday night, Brandon?
Who did the
Okay.
second
For the
on that?
21st,
Yeah.
it's my wife's
Who
birthday,
did the second
Oh.
on that?
so I got lucky.
He didn't wanna say anything, but he was,
Complaining that I've been away a lot lately.
you better bring her somewhere nice.
Okay, let's go back to finish
Moving
our
right
meeting, moving right along,
Who
gentlemen.
did the second on that? I didn't get it.
Andy did.
Okay.
Okay, going back to the
I'm just
rules
gonna
and
tell her I'm not
regulations
going.
for the bylaw.
Yeah. I don't care what they say, honey. I'm staying here for you. That's
Make a
what-
motion to waive the reading of the public hearing minutes.
Second.
What are you doing?
Not minutes, but we're continuing it, so we don't have to,
Yeah, you don't have
we
to.
have to,
Yeah.
don't have to reread the,
You
No.
can waive
Thing.
it. You already did that.
All right, I went home after the last meeting and I emailed MACC and I emailed the information I got the next day to you. So with the WPA filing fees can be used for staff salaries. They can be used for legal expenses, for hiring of consultants, for creating educational brochures, training, computers, office equipment used for administrating and enforcing the WPA. The municipal
According to
fees,
the MACC? Is that what you're
Yes.
referencing?
that's what I gave to you.
Mhm.
And, can be used, a wetlands bylaw ordinance may be also establish a schedule of local filing fees. So the local filing fees can be basically used for the same things as the wetlands protection. It can it can be used for office supplies, computers, all of that kind of stuff.
So you're proposing to change the town bylaws?
No.
Conservation bylaws?
No,
Why not?
what,
The bylaws clearly states that the bylaw filing fee is gonna be reasonable fees in the purpose of securing outside consultants, including engineers, wetland scientists, wildlife
that's on the
biologists, and other
bylaw, though.
experts. That's the bylaw.
Yeah, but this is the regulations.
yes, these are the
I asked her
fees.
if she would, this is where, under the bylaw, this is where the fees are. Well, what governs? I mean, you gotta have a basis for one. The bylaw gives us right to collect the fees.
Right.
The bylaw states you can only use the fees for this purpose.
Yes,
So to use the fees for some other purpose, I would think you'd have to change the bylaw.
no,
That's the bylaw.
the
In
bylaw, you
addition
can
to,
use them
yeah.
for anything according, in the wetlands.
According to the bylaw?
Yes,
Well,
you
No, I
can
think-
use
I
it,
think the way better to say it, and I could be wrong, Bob, is you have regulations state, and then you have bylaws which are in addition to. So I think both always apply. Am I saying it right, Brandon?
Yeah, I have the citation right here too, section 12.6A. At the time of an application, the applicant shall pay a filing fee called the bylaw filing fee specified in regulations of the commission. The bylaw filing fee is in addition to that required by the Wetlands Protection Act and 310 CMR 10, et cetera, et cetera. And it says that, regulations promulgated by the commission may impose reasonable fees upon applicants for the purpose of securing outside consultants, including engineers, et cetera, and other experts in order to aid in the review of proposed projects.
Correct.
But that's,
It's there.
but
So where does that talk about computers and everything else to
it
start
does.
with? See, that,
It's-
that
it's-
didn't have to
it's-
read any of that. You didn't read any of that.
It's implicit in the,
Right here, computers,
in the state.
Right,
office
but I think
equipment.
this is just a
That-
newsletter. is
This-
what
Yeah,
Bob's
that's
saying.
from
This,
Mac,
as far
that's
as I
not from the
know,
state.
This is not part of the town
Right,
of
it's just
Sutton
somebody's
bylaws,
writing.
regulations, or anything else. What is part of the bylaw regulations, this sheet of paper and the regulations that Brandon just read. All right?
But the fees, the local filing fees
The local
can
filing
be
fees.
used for anything to
only-
implement,
Only after you change the bylaws and the regulations for the conservation.
already in there, we've
No,
already
we
done
just-
that.
I might have given him the wrong
We-
copy, I
no,
don't
you didn't.
know.
You didn't. Brandon just read the regulations.
I read the
I ju-
bylaw.
Well, I read the bylaw too, and it doesn't say anything about it in the regulations. You wanna
When,
copy the
when we did the
regulations?
last bylaw, we took the fees out of the bylaw and we intended to put them into the rules and regulations.
There's nothing in the bylaw that states that the fees will be in the rules and regulations, and it's not in the rules and regulations.
Because we left it out accidentally. The purpose was to put them, here's the old bylaw.
Bylaw,
The
here's,
fees were in there.
here's the bylaw right here that tells you what you can use those fees for.
Anything concerning the Wetlands Protection
No,
Act.
it does not. Read it. You wanna read it?
I have.
Go ahead, Mike,
I've
read
been
it.
spending months on it here.
Read it. Well, this is the
Want me to read it
bylaw.
out loud?
Read it so it's on record.
At the time of an application, the applicant shall pay a filing fee called the bylaw filing fee, specified in regulations of the commission. The bylaw filing fee is in addition to that required by the Wetlands Protection Act and 310 CMR 10 pursuant to General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53G, and regulations promulgated by the
Promul-
Promulgated.
by the commission. The commission may impose reasonable fees upon applicants for the purpose of securing outside consultants, including engineers, wetland scientists, wildlife biologists, or other experts in order to aid in the review of proposed projects. Such funds shall be deposited with the town treasurer, who shall create an account specifically for those purposes. Period. So that's the bylaw. Then, Brandon, under the state laws, because those are the only two things we go by, right?
Well,
Bylaws and then the state regulations.
previously, this money went into that account.
No, I
When-
think what Bob's saying is we have a bylaw this is current. And then in addition to this, the only other thing that governs this board is the state regulations, correct?
Can you pull up the state
And
regulations?
I'm just saying,
Yes,
so
That's what I,
this is clear,
That's very clear.
that this doesn't cover anything but consultants
Right.
by the bylaw. So under the state guidelines, are we allowed to charge and increase this fee to use it for?
yes.
Now, well, because this, but you're looking at a news, so Brandon, what is this? Just to help us.
That is only the wetlands. This is only
Okay.
the state. Wetlands Protection Funds at a glance. Fees collected under the State Wetlands Protection Act, not local bylaws or ordinances. What we,
Filing fees are
these were
required
in the town bylaw previous to 2015.
Right, but they're not in there anymore.
Our intention was to put them into the rules and regulations so that we
But I think
wouldn't.
that's what Bob's saying, we need to change this if we wanna change the fee, right?
It's part of it, yeah. And I also, if you read what's in that sheet right there, Conservation Commission collect fees for what? Notice of intent, abbreviated notice of intent, abbreviated notice of resources, area delineation, areas, or these fees must be put in a designated wetland protection fund. Now, I still haven't seen in there anything about computers or salaries or anything else in that,
Well,
no.
I emailed.
Fees also required for the following, but the monies go to DEP, not the commission.
No.
Appeals? What do you mean, no? You just referenced that.
Filing fees collected by the municipality must be deposited in a dedicated amount. The amendment to the Wetlands Protection Act providing for the new fee structure specifies that the municipality may not use fees received for any purposes other than expenditure by the Conservation Commission in performing its duties. Municipal accountant must record the fees and receipts and so forth. That's what this fee schedule was, the municipality fees.
But that sheet that you just, I have up there that you're just reading off of, that's for the town share of the state fee.
Yes, but the municipality had their own fees, and that's what this is.
Right.
Is that the bylaw?
No,
This-
that's
this
the
is-
old one.
This is the old one, and this is what Jen recommended that we put into the rules and regulations, so we would not have to go to town meeting to adjust some of these fees.
And that's legit.
And
But
that's,
that didn't make it to the new bylaw, correct?
but we took it out of the bylaw,
Okay.
and so that we could have a meeting here for rules and regulations and add it to the rules and regulations.
So that you didn't have to go
We-
to the.
so we
selectmen
didn't
to
have to
change
go-
it every
Yeah, but I
time.
think you have to have the bylaw has to justify or give you reason to be able to have the permits and the rules and regulations. I mean, you can't,
Are you saying the state laws give us that?
you can't
Yes,
eliminate the
the
bylaw
Wetlands
saying that there's a
Protection Act,
bylaw
yeah.
fee and
That's-
say we're gonna
okay.
put it in this
That's what I
regulation.
emailed to
So,
everybody
no,
the
we all
next
get-
day.
You've been working on it, so it's
I
easy.
have.
I know, but we gotta help us all to understand, that's all.
I
I'm starting to get it better
I
now.
thought I was doing that.
You did.
Okay, I am going to the conference on Saturday, and I'll see if I can get clarification from somebody.
Let's talk briefly, all right, about the fees that you're proposing. Is everybody in agreement with the fees
Well,
that she's proposing?
No,
I haven't
that's,
seen any yet. I haven't seen any.
no, that's what we're here to decide.
Well,
I-
you are proposing some fees or a fee schedule, are you not? You
I am-
printed it out and handed it out last week.
That was what was in there prior to 2015, right here. This is what they charged prior to 2015.
So, here's a list of the town, here's a
Yeah, the
list
email.
of town of Sutton filing fees prior to 2015.
That's right
But you-
here.
I have contracted some of these, say this time meeting, there will be, these are the ones that you're proposing.
No, I'm not proposing them. Those are the ones to discuss for us to decide what we wanna charge.
Well, who's proposing them? Who's proposing the discussion? I'm not.
It was listed before.
These are
before they
what were
changed
there
the bylaw.
before. So
So these
So
are, these are
we-
the fees that
These
you.
were in the bylaw before.
I understand that.
That's what she's.
So what,
They're not in the bylaw any longer, Joyce.
I
or-
know.
or Wanda.
That's
So
what- that's
let's
what
not even
she
talk
wanted
about
on.
what they are, okay?
no, what we were having this meeting for is to put them into the rules and
And I'm
regulations.
asking these three gentlemen around you whether or not they are aware of the fee schedule that you're proposing to put into
Okay,
the
stop right
fees and
there.
regulations.
I'm not proposing this. This is what was there before, so I wanted to discuss whether we wanted to do the same thing or change them.
Can I recap something for?
Yes.
Hold on, because I know we're all best intentions. So I think this all started, the little bit I've been here, is it was in the red. So we said, how come?
It's not in the red, Michael. We
Today
don't
it's
spend any
not.
money, we don't spend any money on it.
We do.
Or if
Alright.
we're not, we can.
Well, we don't know what we can spend it on yet. but
Wait, yes, I do. We can spend it on anything concerning the Wetlands Protection Act.
That's not what the bylaw says,
It
but
does.
we don't care what the
Bylaw says
says
specifically just,
for these things, that's
for
what the
these
bylaw
things.
says.
Yeah,
But I mean,
I think I understand.
we don't particularly care
size
about the
here.
bylaw anymore, so
Here's
we're
how,
gonna throw it away.
can I try to give a synopsis of what I'm hearing here? There's the fees that are received through the regulations, which is roughly half of what the state gets. And the things that you can use that money for are right in that box. Okay, so that's this, what we call the town share of the filing fee under the state law. But then there's the fees you wanna collect under the bylaw, which are above and beyond.
Which,
And the issue that I'm hearing is that Bob says we need a legal vehicle by which to collect those fees for reasons other than that are specifically stated in the bylaw. And what's specifically stated in the bylaw is fees for consultants, and it doesn't specify anything else. I think Joyce is saying it's implicit and that you can be expanded through a set of regulations. Just the fact that you have a bylaw fee set up, through the regulations, you can expand that from what's written in the bylaw. And the question is, who's right? I think that Bob has a point in that that's exactly what it says in the bylaw. The question is if you're right, can it be expanded? Is it implicit, just because you have the bylaw fee set up, that you can collect money? Does that also mean that you can collect it for the other reasons you're asking for?
It says, anything I've looked at, that you can use it for anything.
But I think this is referring to the first way we collect money, that we split half with the state.
No,
No?
well,
So alls I think Bob's saying is if we wanna increase that $25, you need to specify, like, he doesn't believe that we need any more money than we're already charging because of what it covers. And what it covers, we're already collecting in another area for a consultant fee to cover.
Consultant fees covered with a
Right,
consultant fee,
and
the towns.
so,
got a
and
conservation
I
budget
just
that they
think
have to
Bob's
submit as
eyes,
well.
okay,
to charge more money for something we already have an avenue,
Can I,
charge the money.
can I interject with this real
right?
quick?
Is that where you're going with all this?
Part of it, yeah.
No, let's,
Bob, would you feel better if in that wording it said something to the effect of money shall be used for legal counsel pertaining, or
it does.
not in that?
If it was restricted, that's what I started out with, tell me exactly, you want me to vote on whether or not I wanna raise
Right.
additional funds. Tell me specifically what it's for. Alright, you gotta put in the bylaw to allow it, number one. Number two is you gotta identify what you're gonna spend the money for. We're not, if it's for salaries, I'll take a $20,000 salary for this job. How about you?
Well,
few more years.
What,
But
I've been doing this since last March.
Totally
get paid
for this.
You can use it for anything for the Wetlands Protection
or I
Act.
can restrict it, or we can restrict it as a board to anything we wanna restrict it to.
No, you can't.
I think we
It's
can.
restricted only to wetlands protection.
That's why I say we
And
can further restrict
What
it.
we were supposed to be doing here is to say, do we wanna charge this? This is not my proposal for the money.
Who administers that? Who figures that out?
We do, we were,
Who?
this
There's nobody on this
meeting,
board,
this
there's nobody on
meeting-
this board qualified to figure that out.
this meeting was
Do you know that?
to put the
You've read
rules.
it.
What's that?
You
Okay,
haven't read it.
let's adjourn.
Hold on. This isn't as contentious as anyone thinks it is. You just gotta look through this. So this very first sentence, so there's that sentence, and then there's this sentence right here,
Pursuit.
okay? The question is, are these two sentences related, or are they, mutually exclusive? So if you think of them as mutually exclusive, it just means that the commission, all they have to do is set up regulations that specify whatever you want in it. If you think that they're together, because the consultant fee is mentioned in the same paragraph, one could think that this all goes together and really all we're talking about is consulting fees. But I can see how Joyce is reading this, that if you just read this first sentence, it's mutually exclusive. This section about the consultant fees is a separate thought. It's a separate sentence, separate thought, separate from the first one. And the first sentence allows you the opportunity to create regulations to collect fees for things other than the consultant. That's what I'm saying.
That's exactly how we set it up, that we wanted to take it out of the bylaw and make it in the rules and regulations. So what the purpose of this article is to decide on the fees that we would charge in the rules and regulations. Because unwittingly, when we did this, we didn't know we had to have a separate meeting to put them into the rules and regulations. So the intent was to take the fees out of the bylaw and put them into the rules and regulations. And that's what we are here with this article to do.
But, to back Bob up on this, if you read that first sentence and read what that says, we're adding a fee to pay Brandon that we don't need.
No, we're not paying Brandon.
That's, read what that says.
No.
Or it could be,
That's the consultant fee.
it may not be, it may not be Brandon, but if we wanted another engineer, it could be used for that.
You could,
Right.
but there's the Wetlands Protection Act fees, there's bylaw fees, you know,
I understand
and
that.
there's
But
a
you're-
conservation fee that we don't have.
But you're interpreting paragraph A one way, and I believe Bob's taking it another way.
Well-
Who tells us which one's correct?
Because when we set it up, that's what Jen Hager told me to put in there.
Town council, I think.
So it
It sounds to me that the only way that this deadlock is gonna get broken is to go to town council.
we don't want to do anything.
I'm gonna ask one more question. What are we trying to accomplish?
We're trying to accomplish having more money so that the money does not come out of your tax money and my tax money, that it comes out of
The fund.
the
So let me
fund.
ask
For
it
what?
this way. So is there a third avenue, we're calling it rules and regulations, where this board in open meeting can have a discussion, come up with reasons why we wanna use the money or increase the money? Is that what you're getting at?
That's what I thought we were
No, no,
doing
but I don't
last
think everybody,
week.
it
Yeah.
took me a while, but I believe
Yeah.
that's what you're trying to say.
That's what I'm
So
trying
when
to
Bob
say.
goes to the written rules, they're not there because we have to do them.
Right.
We have to
Yes.
have a discussion, and we're allowed to, under rules and regulations, instead of doing it through a bylaw. And in that meeting that thing we attended, they talked about this exact thing, that the board, in open meeting, had the ability
Yep.
to make rules and regulations.
Yes,
Right.
and that's what we're here to do.
I understand it now.
Thank you.
So, if we wanna start to have a discussion, I'll start it.
I-
What do we
I'm-
wanna use the money for? Cause that's what Bob's asking all along, so where's the list of what you wanna do with the money, right, Bob?
If we can even do that,
Yeah.
because the bylaw
I-
doesn't state we
The
can't
bylaw
do it
says
to
we
begin
can't do
with.
that.
Yes,
Well-
it does.
It says specifically for engineers.
Okay, that if you read the state things, it says right in the state laws.
That's the state.
This-
Our bylaw says any fee that we charge over and above, we have to use what that bylaw states. That's what needs to be changed.
Or interpret it.
Or interpret it this way,
Well, it says
which I don't.
specified in the regulations of the commission, so I think that can be interpreted as the commission can specify whatever,
That's,
what is to be used for.
that was
Under
the,
rules and regulations.
that was the
Rules and
intent.
regulations.
Right,
That
and
was the
wouldn't that be
intent.
rules and regulations, what?
Those
Yes.
are bylaws. Bylaws and rules and regulations are two
So
separate things.
that's how you're seeing it, Joyce, right? And that was
Bylaws-
the intent, but
Bylaws
So
have to
let
be
me
approved
say
at
it this
town
way, so if
meeting.
we're gonna go to town council, you need to have a question to ask them. So now I see the question. Are we allowed to do this under rules and regulations, or is it, we have to follow the bylaws?
Or change the
Or change the
Or change the
bylaws.
bylaws.
Change the
Well,
bylaws.
There you go.
Change the bylaws to allow us
So-
to do it on rules and
I
regulations.
guess if we wanted to make a motion,
Well, no, it's already been determined that, you know, I asked the question before, how do we,
under rules and
Re-
regulations,
yes, and they said, I think
who's
that,
they, though, just for the record?
Jen Hager,
Planning board.
town plan.
planning
But
board.
does town
She
plan oversee this?
she checked with,
Town council or
I
something?
believe so,
So we'll get
But,
clarification on
but
that.
we'll get
Yeah,
clarification
I
on
think we
that.
should get clarification, and if
That's
that's the
not something
case.
we have to conquer tonight anyway.
No,
It's
and
just
then
we
we
can
can
have the
have the
discussion.
discussion.
Cause my head is fried right now.
No,
I,
but it's
I
good
would
to leave
like-
with direction, we were
Yeah.
gaining
I would like
on
to
it.
see some money in that fund. Take your family's piece of land. I would love to have the money to pay a lawyer so that we could close on that and
And
keep
that's
it as
what it can be
conservation
used
land.
for,
That's one good purpose I can see.
yeah?
I
And
don't,
it can, you know, it sends us to the MAC conferences, it can, you know,
Buy
There's
us
a lot of
new
good it could do,
equipment.
yeah.
It can-
right,
If the town's in a bind and we need to hire a lawyer, there's a lot of
If
things
you
that
Right.
can
need
come up,
to
I do
survey
understand it.
a new
Right.
piece of conservation land
Right.
that's been donated.
but it just doesn't seem to me like it's spelled out correctly, right,
So
as
can
of
we
yet.
get clarification from town council so that?
well, let's
'cause I-
wait for that.
No, I think she's saying, before we spend money with town council, give her a little more time. Now that we're
Mm.
getting better at a direction,
Okay,
and I agree with that, because town council always do that last is spending money.
well, I don't wanna
get
spend
But
the money.
that was
if
the
we can-
intent of that one sentence there, was to take the rules, to put the fees into the rules and regulations.
Joyce, I agree with
fees
you.
were
Should've
being
said that,
collected.
Joyce. It
So
should've-
That's
you're gonna
what
get
it said.
clarification
I
on
didn't see
how
it.
we
I
operate
didn't
on the
see
rules and
any
regulations
reference to
Believe
versus
that
the
to be the
bylaw.
intent,
That
but if it's
sentence
not,
you
if something
just
goes
did.
wrong, then we're on the hook,
Says
then
rules
we're
and
in trouble.
regulations in it.
We don't wanna do anything wrong by the townspeople either.
Right. I don't wanna check, it's an expensive
100%.
enough process as it
Thank you,
is.
Mike.
You know, would it make
Just
this
figure out
more
rules and
clear?
regulations versus bylaws, and we'll have more
Yeah.
discussion
Well,
next
well,
time.
would it make
It
this
says
more
it's
clear?
specified in the regulations of the commission.
Right.
That's the rules and regulations.
So what would have made this more clear is if you've taken this highlighted section and turned that into section B and just had this right here be section A. Because when you see this all together, I think that people make an assumption that they're together and that this bylaw fee is specifically related to the consultant fee.
And it's
I
not.
have an idea.
And
Why don't we spend a little money with Brandon so he can come back and give us a presentation of all the different rules and regulations and what the board should do to move forward?
No, that's,
He's like, no. Nobody
I
understands it.
will get the, well,
Get the answer for
I'll
us, right?
see if I can see Kate Conley on Saturday and,
that would be good.
When you guys
Yes.
get some free time, look at the fee schedule and see how well you feel about doubling the costs of every applicant that walks through that door.
it's not,
And you're more than doubling, number one. Number two
I didn't thought.
is, tell me who's going to figure out the cost.
it doesn't, you don't have to go by what is here. We can change whatever we want.
I understand,
But
but unless
I
these
don't
are-
think it should come out of my pocket for the people that walk through the door. They're the ones that wanna do it. It should not come out of everybody's pocket
Taxpayer
in the
money?
town, taxpayer money. It should come out of their pocket, cause they're the ones that wanna do it.
We're not talking about a lot of taxpayer money. The most we're talking about, I guess, is Wanda's salary. And maybe the
No.
lights in the building.
Okay, I'll see if I can,
Which-
Get more
Somebody-
clarification?
yeah.
By the way, when you go read through the MACC recommendations and so forth, they say that the town conservation budget, there is a town conservation budget that is supposed,
we are not a town board.
Yeah, there is.
We are not a
there's
town
no
board. We're a
budget for
there's a
supplies.
conservation budget, and in the MAAC says it's a conservation budget is one of the budgets. And in that, the budget includes the salaries of clerks and all the stuff they
That's
have.
what the wetlands.
I can't retain anymore, can you guys?
No, it comes out of the
Do we
wetlands
wanna
account. We are
continue
not,
this for, to 2 weeks from tonight, where we have a quiet meeting so far on the 7th? We can
Why
dedicate
not?
to.
You can always-
yeah, we can always table it again.
So I would like to make a motion to continue this discussion with some more information from Joyce reporting back to us.
I'll put it at 7:30, but I think I've got some filings coming in tomorrow.
Well, put it at the end, put it at the end of whatever.
You might wanna try to find some money to have Kate Conley come and clean this thing up.
Her letter, so she can.
I'll second that.
November 7th at
I emailed,
the last
Email
thing
it
on
out
the
to us. I have a
assignment
second.
agenda.
Then we can.
I'll go through it.
And
I'll
do you
try
need
to
a time,
listen
Wanda?
a little bit.
and you can look, yeah, cause when I looked in the, I got a whole folder.
Sometimes I'll start over again and start from
I
scratch.
make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Good luck to
Get
the
closer.
resident.